Hey everyone, are you irrational? Maybe you've heard the question before and assumed it was directed at someone else. But this is an important question that philosopher and psychologist Daniel Gilbert asks in his book, Stumbling on Happiness. The answer can help you understand yourself and others better, and might even change your life for the better. So let's see how to spot signs of irrationality. Are you irrational? Number 1, the people around you. When we think about irrational people, we usually have specific individuals in mind. But the more we think about them, the less unique they seem. They remind us of other people we know. And the same may be true of ourselves. According to Gilbert, we are biased toward thinking our behavior is rational, because we only notice similarities between our actions and the reasons we have given for them when they match. For example, if you broke up with someone because you were tired of their constant lying, but then found out they had never lied to you, you would probably feel surprised because all those times when they told you something that turned out to be untrue would come to mind. But according to Gilbert, our brains don't work like that. Instead, we focus on the idea that since we broke up with them because of their lies, then there must have been many lies. So next time you catch yourself thinking someone is being irrational, ask yourself, could I be the one being irrational? Number 2, death. It's hard to talk about death, but it's something we have to come to terms with sooner or later. But do we really know how to think about it rationally? Gilbert argues that most of us try to imagine death as a moment in time. We think of death as the time when we stop existing, and we think about it as if it were happening somewhere outside of us. He gives the example of imagining your house burning down. When you think about this happening, you picture the house burning, but you don't imagine yourself burning along with it. The fire is out there happening to you rather than you being the fire. But when we think about our own deaths, we do just that. Imagine ourselves being the fire, so to speak, instead of someone else's house burning down. This makes it easier to imagine the possibility of death, but it also means we don't truly understand what it means for us to die. According to Gilbert, this is why we often fail to plan for our own deaths rationally. We don't want to believe that we will actually cease to exist, so we put off making plans for after we're gone, which is something we should really think about. Number 3, patience. It's hard to wait sometimes, isn't it? A common piece of advice is that good things come to those who wait, but it's not always easy to follow. Some of the hardest moments in life are those in which we have to wait for something, like waiting for test results or waiting for someone who is late to arrive. These situations make us anxious, which often leads us to act irrationally. Maybe you call a friend to vent about how long you've been waiting. Or maybe you get angry at someone who made you wait too long and say something you didn't mean. Our lack of patience can lead us to do things we regret. And this is especially true when we have no control over the situation, like when you're stuck in traffic and can't get to an important meeting on time. What can we do in these cases? Well, according to Gilbert, the key is to remind yourself that emotions like frustration aren't facts. Just because you're feeling frustrated doesn't mean you have to act on it. Take some deep breaths, listen to some music, or do something else to distract yourself. If you can't control the situation you're in, control your reaction to it. Number 4, the Rosie Scenario. Have you heard about the Rosie Scenario? It's a famous thought experiment in which a woman named Rosie is in an abusive relationship. She gets beaten up by her partner, but he becomes a changed man after their baby is born, however. She can tell from his past history that there is a high chance he will go back to being violent once their child is grown up and moved out of the house. In this scenario, Rosie has to decide whether or not to stay in the relationship and have a child. According to Gilbert, most people argue that Rosie should not have children with him because the risk is too great. But when asked what they would do in this scenario themselves, most people say they would still have children. Why does this happen? Well, it's because even though we think we're acting rationally in our daily lives when we're faced with difficult, hypothetical questions like this one, we tend to answer them based on our emotions rather than what we actually think is the best course of action. So the next time someone asks you a tough question, take some time to think about what you really believe rather than giving an answer that comes easily to you. Number 5, cognitive dissonance. How do you deal with cognitive dissonance? This is the mental discomfort we experience when holding 2 or more contradictory beliefs, ideas, or values. It happens when you know something is wrong, but do it anyway. You might buy into the idea that lying is bad, but lie to avoid hurting someone's feelings anyway. According to Gilbert, this is because we tend to think of ourselves as rational people who only do things after careful consideration. But the reality is that most of our actions are driven by subconscious impulses. Once we become aware of this, we find it hard to admit that we're acting irrationally. After all, if we did something without thinking, then there's no reason to think we'll act rationally in the future either. So instead, we convince ourselves that even though we may have acted irrationally in this instance, in the future, we will take the time to consider our options and make the right decision. Number 6. The conviction bias. Have you ever met someone who was so sure they were right? Sometimes it can be hard to accept other people's opinions because they clash with your own. And when this happens, you might start arguing with them in order to convince them to change their mind. This desire to convince others is called the conviction bias, according to Gilbert. We have a natural tendency to overestimate how much sense our own ideas make and to underestimate the complexity of other people's positions. This is problematic because it prevents us from finding middle ground with others and having respectful conversations. If you want to improve your ability to communicate with others, the first step is to recognize this bias within yourself. Number 7. Story of Pericles. Do you remember Pericles from the Peloponnesian War? He was the leader of Athens who helped the city become the cultural center of the Greek world. But despite his accomplishments, Athens ended up losing the war against Sparta. The historian Thucydides wrote that one of the main reasons for Athens' defeat was their hubris. Pericles believed his city was invincible, which led him to take risks that eventually caused their downfall. But sometimes we have to take risks in life, right? Well, yes, but according to Gilbert, Pericles' story reminds us that being overly confident can lead to bad decisions. Even if we feel like we're acting rationally, if we're too confident in our abilities, we might end up making mistakes we couldn't have avoided otherwise. So when making important decisions, make sure you leave room for doubt and uncertainty. Don't be afraid to take risks, but always make sure you've thought things through carefully. And number 8, brain inhibition system. Did you know that your brain has an inhibition system? According to neuroscientist Patricia Churchland, the orbitofrontal cortex, or OFC, is responsible for stopping certain behaviors. Basically, the OFC stops you from acting on irrational thoughts. You might think that you're free to do whatever you want, whenever you want, but this part of your brain helps keep you from doing things you'd regret. So if you suddenly get the urge to run across the street in the middle of traffic, your OFC stops you. But this doesn't mean your OFC is perfect. Sometimes it can fail. Certain personality disorders and brain injuries can cause your OFC to malfunction. In these cases, you may find yourself doing things without thinking about them first. According to Gilbert, this is a sign that your brain inhibition system isn't working properly. Bottom line is that we all act irrationally sometimes. It's just part of being human. But by becoming aware of the ways in which we're prone to act irrationally, we can avoid some of the pitfalls that lie ahead. So which of these points do you think will help you be more rational in your day-to-day life? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click the like button and share it with a friend. Subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell icon to get more content like this. Thanks for watching.